Watch how Keir Starmer faces one of the most brutal days of his political career as MPs show no mercy following his stunning resignation. With Kemi Badenoch leading the charge and criticism pouring in from every side of the Commons, Westminster erupts into an unforgettable political showdown. Before we continue, hit like and subscribe to Britain Daily for more explosive political coverage. Let's watch this explosive clip.
In Gorton and Denton, the Tories got 1.9% of the vote. Can I congratulate her? Because in Makerfield, they got 2.2% of the vote. Just edging past Count Pinface. She says they're winning everywhere. At that rate, it'll take them 500 years to get back into power.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Prime Minister forgot to mention that in Aberdeen South we got 50%. And he says that he's funding defence. The truth is, he wouldn't be in this mess if his Chancellor had found money for the Defence Investment Plan. The Prime Minister gave her the second most important job in Britain. She was the first female Chancellor. She lives next door to him, but wouldn't even come out to stand by him during his resignation speech. She was too busy getting ready for a selfie with the new leader. Does the Prime Minister feel let down by his Chancellor?
This is the Chancellor who ended austerity inflicted on our country for 14 long years. This is the Chancellor who got the economy growing, Mr. Speaker. She doesn't normally want to talk about the economy. That's because in the first quarter of this year, the UK had the fastest growing economy in the G7.
Mr. Speaker, they're cheering so loudly. If it's all going so fine, why is he resigning? She did let him down. She's the one who snatched the winter fuel payments. She's the one who announced a disastrous budget that killed economic growth. And because of her, once again, a Labour Prime Minister is leaving office with unemployment higher than when he came in. But the Chancellor isn't the only person who let him down. The Energy Secretary is putting up bills and killing jobs. He's not here, is he? He was a failed Labour leader, rejected by the electorate, brought back from the wilderness by this man, and when the going got tough, he jumped into bed with the Mayor of Manchester. It's not the first time he's betrayed someone close to him, is it? Some of his cabinet have been loyal and incompetent. Hands up if you think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job, Mr. Speaker. Even she doesn't think she's doing a good job. Someone did. Just for those who raised their hands, the two people who raised their hands, yesterday a poll found that 0% of teachers think the Education Secretary is doing a good job. 0%. She taxed private schools to pay for more teachers, but the number of teachers has gone down. Yeah. It turns out appointing a spiteful class warrior as Education Secretary was a disaster. Does the Prime Minister agree that he has been let down by her incompetence?
Prime Minister. The Education Secretary grew up in poverty. She knows exactly what it means to grow up in poverty. She was once reluctant to tell her story. I know her story. It's an incredible story of social mobility and success. I am so proud that she is sitting there, and so should everybody in this country who cares about social mobility. She knows that for poor children, education is absolutely vital, and that is why it drives every single priority and value that she has. I would have thought the party opposite would recognise and understand some of that, but they've fallen so low they don't.
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I'm sorry, but the Chancellor's recollection of her record is fantasy economics from a fantasy economist. Isn't the true record this? Poor decision-making, with U-turn after U-turn after U-turn on winter fuel payments, on business rates and on family farm taxes. Tax after tax after tax on jobs, on investment, on savings. A country more indebted with higher interest rates too, and a Chancellor unable to cut welfare and unwilling to fund our defence.
I'm incredibly proud of my record as Chancellor of the Exchequer. The
fastest growing country in the G7 within the EU, wages rising faster than inflation every single month since I became Chancellor, record investment coming into the United Kingdom, rolling out free breakfast clubs and free school meals, 500,000 children lifted out of poverty, creating the National Wealth Fund and leveraging in private sector investment. Those things are only possible because the decisions that I have made as Chancellor, and as a result, for the first time since 2019, government borrowing was less than 5% of GDP, a very far change from the mess that I inherited from the party opposites.
Brilliant. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, we don't say thank you enough, so I'd like to offer my heartfelt thanks to the Chancellor for listening. She listened to me, my fellow MPs, our pottery workers and our GMB union, and especially Sharon Yates, by offering a £120 million support and growth package for our ceramics sector. So can the Chancellor now outline how she will ensure smaller manufacturers benefit from this fantastic new scheme?
Well said.
Chancellor.
I thank my honourable friend for that question, but also for the representation he and other MPs representing ceramic constituencies have made.
Mr. Speaker, the last time I spoke in an opposition day debate on defence was in March, on the subject of the long-delayed Defence Investment Plan. Since then, we've still had no Defence Investment Plan. Instead, we've had chaos. The resignation of the Secretary of State for Defence, the resignation of the Minister for the Armed Forces, and yesterday, the resignation of the Prime Minister himself. These resignations are not unconnected. On the contrary, for a Prime Minister who thought that national security was his strong suit, those resignations from the MOD were fatal for his career, and they have a common thread, namely Labour's massive strategic mistake of prioritising an ever bigger welfare state over properly funding defence, despite war in Europe and the Middle East. As the previous Defence Secretary said himself, he simply could not put his name to a defence investment plan with a financial settlement that, to quote, falls well short and would make the country less safe. This is why we want to see the Defence Investment Plan, Mr. Speaker. We've been waiting for months. We've been promised it repeatedly from the dispatch box. We need to see the details, whether it's the Navy, the Army or the Royal Air Force. And of course, the previous Secretary of State knew this was a problem. Let's just remind ourselves what else he said. He said that he was being, and I quote, forced to make decisions that would reduce the readiness of our forces and increase the risk to personnel on operations. That is a staggering indictment. The Prime Minister was seriously considering a financial settlement for defence that would, in the words of the man responsible for defence in this government until less than 2 weeks ago, make Britain less safe. But he wasn't alone in that warning. Last week, the Chief of the Defence Staff issued a stark message of his own when he said, and I quote, "We will have to dial back our activities and our exercise and operational activity if the level of resource funding that is available to us does not increase." Mr. Speaker, that is the stark reality. If the financial offer stays the same, at a time of war and the most profound threats to our nation since the Cold War, defence will have to be cut, our country made less safe.
Since the convictions, a number of serious and reputable people have raised concerns about the expert scientific and statistical evidence in this case. Both the evidence presented to the jury and the evidence that the jury never saw. Those concerns come from neonatologists, pathologists, statisticians, and most recently from Dame Sue Black, one of the country's most distinguished forensic scientists. Like me, Dame Sue makes no claim as to whether Lucy Letby is innocent or guilty, but she has said in measured terms that she is troubled by the conviction and by the apparent lack of forensic evidence. When someone of her public scientific standing speaks in these terms, I do not think the issue she raises can be properly avoided. Her and other expert concerns raise profound questions as to the fairness of the trial and indeed about the status of the evidential test used by the CCRC in considering whether to reopen it. I remind the House that there were no witnesses, no CCTV footage, no forensic evidence, and no confession in this case. Everything, therefore, depended on the testimony of experts. But when it came to the defence, in the words of Dame Sue Black, there were no medical or statistical experts put forward at all. I'd also highlight that Lucy Letby had had a prior complaint against the consultants in the hospital. This was upheld after a detailed investigation and report, which found there was absolutely nothing to prevent her returning to work and that doctors had bullied and harassed her. This evidence, too, was never heard by the jury. The Thirlwall inquiry into the Countess of Chester Hospital has yet to publish its final report, despite many delays. But yesterday's Nottingham University Hospitals report is a powerful reminder that in neonatal and maternity settings, grave harm can arise not only from individual malfeasance, but also from systematic clinical failure. If I may conclude, the Criminal Cases Review Commission is now considering the Lepley case. May I
Please. I have allowed the time. It is a minute over. All I would say is, please, can you conclude now?
I think it's unfortunate that I was not allowed to conclude in the terms that I
We
did.
will leave it at that. Can I, Leader of the House? I'm not going to be challenged. Sorry.
What a remarkable and dramatic session in the House of Commons. Only days after announcing his resignation, Keir Starmer returned to Parliament knowing every question would be viewed through the lens of a departing Prime Minister. Rather than receiving an easy ride, he faced relentless criticism from across the chamber. Kemi Badenoch seized the moment, arguing that Starmer had been abandoned by members of his own cabinet. She accused Rachel Reeves of damaging the economy, criticised Labour's handling of defence spending, and questioned whether senior ministers had stood by the Prime Minister when his leadership came under pressure. Her repeated challenge was simple. If Labour's record was truly a success, why was its leader stepping down? The debate did not stop there. Other MPs raised serious questions about Britain's defence strategy, warning that delays to investment decisions could affect military readiness. The resignations of senior defence figures became a major focus, adding to the sense that Westminster is entering a period of significant political change. Starmer defended his government's record, pointing to economic growth, investment in public services, and reforms introduced during his time in office. But the atmosphere inside the Commons showed just how divided opinion remains over his legacy. Politics is often judged not only by victories, but by how leaders leave office. Today's debate was a reminder that the arguments over Sir Keir Starmer's time in Downing Street are far from over. What did you make of this extraordinary Commons clash? Did MPs ask the questions the public wanted answered, or did Starmer successfully defend his record? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this coverage, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to Britain Daily, and turn on notifications so you never miss the biggest PMQ's clashes, Commons debates, and breaking political stories from Westminster.